Good evening. We will call to order the regular meeting of the Meridian Library Board of Trustees. It is 7 p.m. on Wednesday, April 17th. Welcome, everyone. The first item on our agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody signed up? Thank you. Thank you so much. So I would just remind folks that open meeting law precludes us from discussing any items that are not already on our agenda, and we do limit public comment to 3 minutes. Mr. Carter.
I'm Brian Carter, constituent of the Meridian Free Library District, otherwise referred to as MLD, which is a great acronym. I have 4 topics at this 3-minute time permits. The Meridian Free Library District, constituent time of 3 minutes. When I presented to like constituents that during MLD Board of Director meetings, we constituents are individually limited to 3 minutes total to present our topics, be they concerns or praise or rebuttal to later presentations, while yet financial institutions, such as last meeting's COP financing presenter, are given 10, 20, and in one instance I recall some years back, 42 minutes to present their wonderful funding options, soliciting to receive our constituent tax dollars as profits in the tens, hundreds of thousands, or even million more in interest, yet constituents are not given time after their presentation to present concerns. I mean, why is it that a foreign fictitious entity, such as those seeking to fund via COP financing, are given 3x or 6 times or even 14 times the allocation to solicit the taking of taxpayer dollars from we constituents, when yet constituents are literally given no time at all in the same board meeting, say that of a paltry 3 minutes at the next MLD board meeting, of which may or may not occur. Sometimes even this year there have been board meetings set aside. I realize personal events come up. Topic 2, I do see that there are several policies on the agenda tonight, looking to look at policies that are in place. A little bit dismayed of no definitive response of my presenting concern as to the Code of Conduct policy, item number 11. Idaho Law 3302J, Section 2 is quite clear regarding, in part, quote, no county, city, agency, board, or any other political subdivision, of which this board is, may enforce any law or adopt such rule, regulation, or ordinance which regulates in any manner the possession of or carrying of firearms. I submit that MLD Code of Conduct Policy Item 11 is in violation of this law and does need to be repealed, and I would place before this Board of Directors to engage on that as an soon agenda item. Topic 3. At the March 2023 Board of Directors meeting, I was perplexed, not knowing to be either dismayed or otherwise, when there was an expressive, heavy emotive disparativeness, at least what it seemed to me, that House Bill 710, sometimes known as the Library Anti-Porn Bill, would soon become law, to that of reducing the potential of pornography available to minors in libraries throughout our state. I would only hope that it may never be that anyone would otherwise emotive to that extent that our children in our Idaho communities would be, quote, of neglected access, unquote, of such debased material that can and does lead to human trafficking. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just remind folks in attendance, they of course are welcome to submit comments to us in writing at any time. There is a form on our website to reach the board and provide written comments in that way. That brings us to item number 2 on our agenda, the consent agenda. These items were included in our packet. We have regular meeting minutes from March 20th, and we have some straightforward policy reviews, the photography policy, and then also 2 job descriptions, administrative assistant and resource coordinator. Consent agenda items are considered routine and are acted upon without discussion. With that, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Destiny.
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Josh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item number 3, our monthly financial reports. In our packet, we had the February financial reports and the list of disbursements for the month, as well as a few comments from Emma. Anything additional to add, Nick or Emma? Questions from the trustees? Go ahead, Laura.
Madam Chair, Emma, I have a question about the shoe replacement for 9 people listed on the accounts payable. I know that it's going to be submitted to ICRIMP, but tell me more about that.
I can answer that for you. So when the unit outside the store failed, it leaked glycol and it ruined the shoes. And so we worked with iCrimp on that to replace the shoes of the staff that were working to clean it up. And iCrimp has funded us the credit for that amount.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Josh.
Nick and Emma, I just had a question about I saw the expenditure for snow removal in January of $15,000. So pretty much as I'm scanning financial reports, I only kind of look for things that stand out to me. Can you talk about where that actually took place, and was that over or under expected budget for snow removal for the year? How are we looking on that, and just kind of address that aspect of it?
So that is one of those that is a variable amount depending on weather. So we do have it budgeted. However, depending on if it's or if we have a dry year, big difference. So to that extent, it's not surprising. We have contracts in place to do the parking lot here and to do the sidewalks at this location. And I'm trying to think, I don't think they're doing in any other locations now. They might do Unbound occasionally, but that it's mostly just here because we own this. So at Orchard Park and at Silverstone, it's built into the lease agreement for those leased properties. And so it's not done at those by us. It's built into what we already pay. But it's mostly for the parking lots and the sidewalks. So, but yes, it was budgeted for, I guess would be the other part of the question that you asked.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. To follow up on that, and Tiny Library, do we have to do it? I would think the Y would do the parking lot.
That is through the Y.
Thank you. Other questions on the financial reports? Or I would entertain a motion to approve our February financial reports and disbursements.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the February financial reports and disbursements as presented.
Thank you, Josh.
I second.
Thank you, Laura. Further comment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to our fiscal year 2023 audit presentation and acceptance. We have our folks from Harris CPAs here with us.
Thank you very much. My name is Kendra Stillwell. I'm audit senior with Harris CPAs and project manager this year on Meridian Library District's audit. I'm going to run you real quick through the opinion. We have audited the government-wide financial statements and fund financial statements of Meridian Library District as of and for the year ended September 30th, 2023, and the related notes to the financial statements, which collectively comprise Meridian Library District's basic financial statements as listed in the table of contents. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Meridian Library District as of September 30th, 2023, and the changes in its financial position and its cash flows for the year ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This states that they have an unmodified clean opinion, which is what you were going for. We had a couple of slight adjustments, but nothing that was material weakness or significant deficiency within the audit. One recommendation, which I did talk with Emma about, would be working on having a management discussion and analysis for next year. We're going to work together on building one out and having it for the financials just to overall improve the analysis and all the information provided during the audit. There were a couple large changes, which I'm sure everyone is aware of. With Orchard Park, there was a significant increase in capital assets, along with the right of use asset that was implemented last year. The right of use asset increased significantly with that lease agreement and the lease liability associated with that. This year, the district implemented GASB 96. You can see that in Note A of Summary of Significant Accounting Policies on page 15. And that's for the subscription-based information technology arrangements. They adopted it but did not have to implement because there were no significant long-term agreements for software or subscriptions during the year. Additionally, for our report on internal controls, which is at the end of the audit on page 34, there was no single audit requirement in the current year. However, we still do a report on internal controls. And I'll quickly read our couple paragraphs from that report. We have audited in accordance with the auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and the standards applicable to financial audits contained in governmental auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States, the financial statements of the governmental activities, and each major fund in Meridian Library District as of and for the year ended September 30th, 2023, and the related notes to the financial statements, which collectively comprise Meridian Library District's basic financial statements and have issued our report therein dated April 17th, 2024. Our consideration of internal controls was for the limited purpose described in the first paragraph of the section and was not designed to identify all deficiencies in internal controls that might be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Given these limitations during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. However, material weaknesses or significant deficiencies may exist that were not identified. Overall, we still had an unmodified opinion and clean opinion, and no issues were noted. I will say I really enjoyed working this year with Emma. It was my first year in Meridian Library District, and I believe it went really smoothly for all of the little roadblocks we had along the way. So, thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Kendra. So the full report was provided in our packets for the trustees to review. Questions or comments? Seeing none, then this is an action item for us tonight. We are asked to accept the fiscal year 2023 audit report.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Laura.
I move that we accept the 2023 fiscal audit report.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Destiny. Further comment? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Kendra, for your good work on this. We are delighted to have this completed. I'm sure Emma is as well. So that brings us then to item number 5 on our agenda, presentation from staff. Courtney Brown is here with us to talk about libraries as launchpads.
Thank you, Madam Chair and trustees. I've been asked to present on my experience doing libraries as launchpads. This originally was a cohort that started in New Mexico, and it was a group of librarians wanting to get more business resources for entrepreneurs in the libraries. So yes, I was part of the first cohort or the first round of that. So yeah, it's like I said, for business support in your libraries. If I could go to the next slide. The first session that we did was to get the librarians essentially certified as the entrepreneurship librarians, which me and a fellow coworker were both certified as in the end. When we first started, it was seeming like they were trying to get libraries across the country to kind of be where Unbound is now. So we weren't sure. We were giving more advice at first than we were receiving, but we did gain a lot of resources and ideas and met a lot of contacts of different librarians throughout the country. So that was really great. I do have a note on there. Our networking breakfast was one of the ideas that we gained throughout that first session, and our 1 year anniversary is coming up next month. So that's exciting. We also held our first small business resource fair. That was a big hit. We had about 15 different small business resources, community resources held at Unbound. So we had entrepreneurs come in throughout the day and gained resources for their small businesses. So we did end that first session with a pitch competition for our library, pitching the different programs and resources that we had. So yeah, I decided to, well, I was accepted into the second session. If you could switch over, thank you. And this one was me being the facilitator in the session. So it was hybrid. It was part online, part in person. We had 6 different patrons come in who were working on their small businesses, and throughout the process, they gained several different resources. They progressed their business. This had the library granted a $3,000 stipend, roughly $3,000 stipend, and we became a nationally certified entrepreneurial hub. So that is something that is listed on their website, and it's something that if you're looking into small business resources, it does pop up on there as well. But we have been using some of the funds, we've used some of the funds to continue our LLC workshops, which originally we got a grant for, to be able to have speakers come in with SBA and with SCORE, and they helped entrepreneurs, people wanting to get their small businesses registered. So there was speakers, and then we ended up paying for their LLCs. So that was all through a grant originally, and now it's something that we can continue doing. It is a free and open to the public program. So all you have to do is register, and it's something that we're really excited about being able to continue. So this next session that I'm doing, it is actually about to start next week, but this is us being able to help other librarians get business resources into their libraries and be able to help small businesses across the country. And yeah, so this one will be something to where we'll be filming at Unbound and doing interviews, giving a tour of the branch and talking about our programs that are business oriented, that have been a success, our trials and tribulations, what's worked, what hasn't worked. Yeah, and then we're just really focusing on how to support small businesses and entrepreneurs in different communities around the country. So this will also provide about a $4,000 stipend to the library district. So on there, I have a map that is provided, that all of the dots there where the entrepreneurial hubs are, and you can see Unbound on the map there. So yeah, thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Courtney. Questions? Go ahead, Laura.
Madam Chair, Courtney, you talk about in session 3, the helping other libraries become entrepreneurial hubs. What does that cover? Just public libraries? Does it cover school, like college libraries? Is it any library?
That is a great question. I suppose it's whoever is a part of the program, but so far it's only been public libraries. So I would imagine school libraries, as far as university libraries, I'm sure it would be beneficial just to have ideas of different resources. I meet with different university librarians monthly and talk about different resources that we provide for small business owners, and it's just something that they can provide with their business major students. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Madam Chair. Courtney, I think this is fantastic. As a small business owner myself, my question is, how could we help you expand this program and get the word out more? Do you feel like the marketing of this particular aspect of the Meridian Library District is like, what's the turnout you're seeing?
right.
And what's the capacity for throughput, I guess, for people that are interested in starting a small business or need some help?
Right. I thank you for asking that question. It is something that has been on my mind for a long time, of how to get the word out more about our resources here. If you're not already following the library on social media, or if you don't already come into the library regularly, it's hard to get the word out to you about all of our great resources. So we put these on community calendars, the chamber, the city, LinkedIn, social media, all of that. But it is something that is a challenge of how to get in front of people with these great for these great resources, if they're not actively looking for it. There are several business resources out there that I didn't know of myself until I got into this role, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that could benefit from them. So.
And I mean, obviously the SBA and SCORE, I mean, those programs are fantastic, but they're
Yeah.
kind of a bigger, kind of thing to tackle for a lot of people that are just starting out.
Right.
I would say that reaching out to probably the Secretary of State's office would help a lot, just because I know they'd probably be all about helping people file paperwork and taking the fear factor out of starting a business as far as the paperwork side and business entity in the state of Idaho. And I don't know if that's something that, like, maybe offering hey, start a small business for $100 or less kind of thing, or some catchy kind of marketing on that side would maybe help. But yeah, I mean, I put this right up there with like the notary service that we provide. That's another, well-kept secret, unfortunately, of the district. And it's just one of a million other benefits of, to the taxpayers and the residents of the district, I think, that hopefully we'd see more of. But do you have a target in mind for like the rest of the year? Like, hey, you want to help, 30 small businesses get going, or
As far as the LLC workshops?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
Well, we have, each LLC is roughly $100. So however many we can do with the money that we've been granted from these programs, we'll gladly help as many as we can. So, yeah. We do have, I'm sure you're very familiar with Unbound's resources as well. So, as well as the databases that are accessible throughout the district. So, as many small business owners, as far as marketing material, advertising, makerspace items, there's many small businesses that we are happy to help and able to. So.
I'll chime in with
Thank you.
maybe a little more context. So we started Unbound in 2015. So we're going on 8.5 years. October will be a full 9 years since we started Unbound. And during that time, we've made a conscious effort to create strong partnerships with the Chamber of Commerce, SBA, SCORE, the City of Meridian, and really working with a lot of different partners in addition to those. But we are not always going to be the right resource for the person. And when we're not, we pass them on to a partner that is at the stage where that person is needing help. But a lot of times people don't know where to start, and our partners will send them to us to help kind of help them navigate those waters. And Courtney has done a great job of stepping in and being able to do that. The capacity issue is always an interesting one, because she is only one person So she doesn't admit it, but she does have limits. And so we've done a really good job, I feel, in building these programs somewhat organically, because if we go too big, too fast, we run the risk of not being able to meet some of the expectations. And so while the growth is slow and we're not getting as many people as are needing the help, it is somewhat of a capacity issue with the staff. But we have done a good job, I think, as a board over the years in dedicating funds to go to Unbound and to make this resource available to the public, because the return on investment from the public money to get Unbound where it is quite high. And we are seen across the country as leading the charge in innovation and supporting small businesses, and in no small part to what Courtney has been able to do in her now 2.5 years at being at Unbound, and I think her 4th position since starting. So yes, we have more to grow, but I'm going to push the team to do it slowly, so that we continue to provide the high level of service that we do.
Thank you. Thanks, Courtney and Nick. And kind of related to that question, I'm thinking about, are we following or maintaining connection with folks through the life cycle? So I don't know where to start. I started Unbound, I got some information, and then I've kind of moved on. And 3 years later, I'm, pretty successful little shop. It would be great to share some of those stories, because I think that provides a lot of inspiration for folks in the community that feel like, I'm not sure I can do this. I don't know how to start, those kinds of things. Do we keep track of folks?
It's something our team has been working on. It's even with the 3D printing, with the different innovative ideas that people have had and been able to utilize our 3D printers for. Our success stories is something that we've been working on being able to track and showcase.
I'm sure. I would just like to add my name to the list of people that you can connect others to for a small business slant, specifically as a guy who hasn't had a W-2 job in over a decade. So please don't hesitate to reach out if I can help with anybody, or if people have questions, or you need somebody. Hey, we got a short notice. Somebody dropped out from SCORE, SBA. Josh, can you come in? I'm more than happy to do that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right. Thank you so much, Courtney.
Thank you.
Alrighty, that brings us to item number 6 on our agenda, the director updates. We did have our written reports provided in our packets as well. Nick.
All right. We switched up the slides a little bit just so I could kind of go through this a little more succinctly. All of this is in your packet, but just wanted to highlight the first few things on my director update. So I was at the Senate State Affairs in March, testifying at regarding HB 710. I also was able to participate in the biannual Idaho Public Library Director Summit, and also the pre-workshop for capital improvements. They had brought in some experts on building library projects and how to do project management, how to think through from ideation to completion on some of these. It was one of those, similar to what Courtney said, though, if the libraries as launch pads, a lot of it are things that we are already doing. And not only with capital projects, but with some of the other things as well. Just we've done a very good job as a district in planning, preparing, and making sure that we're well informed before we make decisions. So I was able to help a lot of our smaller libraries, and they've reached out after that summit to ask questions and seek advice on how to plan and process and tackle some of the challenges that they have. And then we also officially submitted to vacate the Silverstone lease by the end of September, which is in accordance with the lease that we had with them to give 180-day notice. And so we will officially be on the clock to move out of Silverstone and into Pinnacle. But we have plenty of time between now and the end of September to be able to do that. So with executing the purchase sale agreement of Pinnacle in August, that gives us at least a month to 2 months to move out of Silverstone and into Pinnacle. Not super busy with hiring this last month, but we did. I did want to note that we hired our second library courier, and that position allows us to double the amount of time that we are able to deliver. And it's something that, as we continue on with finishing up the capital project for Pinnacle, we'll be moving on to the capital project to renovate Cherry Lane. And with that, we need to have our process and systems in place to offset any disruptions that may or may not come about in the renovation process to the services here at Cherry Lane. So just trying to make sure that we are not only serving now, but prepared to serve later as well. So that's one I was wanted to call out. Next, we have the foundation report. The foundation's been very busy. They were able to work with the Rotary Club, Boise Rotary Foundation, and get a $2,500 grant. And there's a lot that went into this, but I'm very pleased that with the foundation and the Boise Rotary Foundation that we were able to get that. Broken record, but Orchard Park ADA operators are in progress. We finally have it moving forward, so that should be done sometime in the next decade. The HVAC and sorter here are very old for what they are. Our team is holding them together as best we can, and kudos to Steve and Mohammed for keeping those machines chugging along until we are able to remodel the building. And then the strategic initiatives team worked with West Ada and the city of Meridian to do participate at Meridian Middle School for the Do the Right community initiative that happens every year. And they were able to talk to, I think, about 200 people. They were able to get library cards signed up and work on some projects that they had taken over there as well. Next, to collection development, looking at how many things are added and how many things were weeded. Weeding is a little bit higher right now because we are cleaning up the collection of Silverstone to make room for, or not make room, but to clean up the shelves in terms of making them more accessible. They haven't been thoroughly weeded in some time, but also to make sure that we're not taking books that have torn pages and that are needing to be replaced. We're taking those out of the collection rather than keeping them in and then moving them to Pinnacle this fall and then needing to replace them then. So just trying to make it easier for us to move, but also as we do this, it's kind of a weird thing where the more you weed to a certain extent, the more browsable the collection becomes and the more items turn over. So it creates a better atmosphere for people to browse through the collection and find what they're actually looking for, rather than having it completely stocked where it's hard to navigate the collection. So just a philosophical piece there of why we do that. Computer labs, very busy. The number that I always like to look at is that average user time. Our average user is on their computers for 85 minutes. So that means that they're staying at a branch for quite a while on average. And so our computers and our wireless network are heavily used resources at all locations. And then just want to do some quick highlights of the branches. the winter reading program, 244 completions with over 400 minutes read. And then Silverstone had it in theirs, but it was also in the other reports as well. But the kindergarten readiness is something that our teams go out and do, and work with the elementary schools to provide those, to be at those events. And it's a key piece of that incoming kindergartner being able to feel comfortable going to the school that they're going to go to and know that there's community support beyond just their teacher and their principal, but that there's other people invested in their future success in school. So I'm proud of our teams and the work that they're able to do with those kindergarten registrations. And then Orchard Park had a big Mario Day celebration where they had over 100 people. They also had the Steelhead out recently, Steelhead hockey, to do some story time. And then I don't know if you saw in the report, but Cherry Lane, kind of bouncing back up, they had the Meridian Police Department here for one of their story times. And that is a fan favorite of a lot of storytime goers. And then Jane, who was at Cherry Lane a year ago and then up at Orchard Park, became the branch manager at Unbound recently. And so we're excited to have her over there taking on that new challenge. And the team from Unbound was able to go to Hackfort, which is part of the Treefort Music Festival, and showcase some of the technology and resources that Unbound and the Meridian Library have. And I believe they were featured on one of the news stations. I don't recall which one, but Channel 2, they were featured on that in participating at that event. Now, these are some of our circulation stats. We see them every month, but just like to show how many things are moving every month. So we had over 100,000 checkouts last month and 62,000 check-ins. You can see we're slightly above our averages, and our year-to-date is a little wonky, but we're right on our averages or right above it. So doing pretty good. We did go up on the accounts created though, which is always a good metric to be keep an eye on. And then when we go to our door count, again, this is up a lot. This one is going to see large numbers one more month for reporting purposes. And it should then start to even out a bit because we're going to hit the 1 year anniversary of Orchard Park being open. And so our numbers are slightly askew with door count specifically, but others to an extent, but mostly door count that we're seeing those. But everything's keeping busy, lots of outreach, and yeah. Another big one that we see every month, but always great to see, is the programs that have returned and are flourishing. As we go forward, these numbers might start to fluctuate a little bit more than what we're seeing here. And one of the reasons is that, kind of going back to some of the earlier conversations, is making sure that we have the quality over quantity of what we're able to provide, and balancing what we're able to properly execute in terms of programs, and meeting the needs of the public and what they're asking for at the same time. So we're not going to try and have 100 story times when we can only support the ones that we currently are doing. So just kind of trying to balance that out so it's not just a numbers game, that we're also going for the quality of the programs that our public has access to. Again, lots and lots of people coming to our programs, and so almost 5,000, getting near 5,000 people is a pretty good number for us to be seeing. And the really interesting thing is looking at the age breakdown here. A lot of times when I've worked in libraries in the past, you're carried almost exclusively by that early learner group. Ours is fairly well distributed for all demographics, and that's a really good statistic to look at the health of the program roster that we put out there. And so I'm very proud of the work that our team is doing, and not that they're not just taking the easy route of having a million story times, but we're focusing on all people in our community and meeting the unique needs of each demographic. So now that we are on, you can see a color change to green. These are stats that we don't talk about every month. These are stats that we look at either quarterly or biannually. And so looking at room reservations again, and wanted to give some context to what we're looking at. So this is the Cherry Lane room reservations. We average 10 in this room that are non-staff use. And so non-library sponsored events. Small conference room, 12 last month, busy with 20. And then the study rooms are about as booked as they can be. So that's not too out of the ordinary. Now with the small conference room, one of the things that I anticipate seeing is that number to continually go up over the next year. And the reason for that is we have been able to use the admin building and Orchard Park specifically, and then eventually we'll be able to use the former director office here at Cherry Lane for staff meetings. And so staff are not using the public use spaces. And so trying to do whatever we can to continually open up public use spaces for the public to use to make it as open and available as possible, while understanding that there will be times when we need to use it as a district, but trying to minimize that impact as much as possible. And then conference rooms and study rooms, staying busy, looking at averages again. Orchard Park doing great. And then Unbound, those numbers have gone pretty high over time, but they've started to level out, I would say, where they have a lot of regulars, but they have a lot of regulars who tell other people word of mouth on where they can go record or where they can have a meeting. And so it's kind of great to see those numbers where they're at. And then if we jump to grants and sponsorships, we have done a really great job of being able to get money through various mechanisms to support projects, to support professional development, to support capital improvement, to support collections. And so we have our teams that are working on that. And we, at the bottom, we do have 11 that are currently in progress that we're hoping to win as well. So 3 of the top entities that we receive grants and sponsorships from are our Meridian Library Foundation, our Meridian Library Friends Group, and then ICFL, the Idaho Commission for Libraries. The ICFL funding is largely for professional development. They have an option for staff around the state to apply for first-time conference attendance grants, and that's typically a large portion of what we receive from them is that first-time conference attendance grant. And then the foundation has given a lot. They'll be giving a lot more in the coming months as we get closer to working on the Pinnacle project. And then the Friends have done quite a bit in donating from their book sales and other endeavors. So a couple of the things that we funded: Pinnacle books. They've already started buying those, and that number will look different the next time we see this in 3 months by quite a bit. Orchard Park, the 10,000 there, and then summer reading. That is in a few different forms, but that will go towards the summer reading kickoff and the summer reading program prizes, and the some of the setup that is required to make that reading program happen. And then staff engagement is another area where we don't use the funds from taxpayers for certain staff like events, but we will use donated funds for those purposes. And then the pictures here, one on the left, staff day, one in the top middle is a business program at Unbound, and then the bottom middle is the Idaho Steelhead up at Orchard Park. So wanted to share a few fun things while after listening to me ramble about numbers for a little bit.
Thank you, Nick. Questions, comments from the trustees? Go ahead, Josh.
Madam Chair. Nick, this is a question more for, I saw in Jason's report, the Pinnacle book acquisition process and store. It looked like a storage locker or something like that. Is that actually in the facility, in the building, or where? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, that is a offsite storage rented facility. We've had a rented unit for a number of years, and that is when they come in, they get processed and then sent over there because we don't have room in our annex to hold on to the hundreds and eventually thousands of books that we'll be prepping for the Pinnacle branch. I don't remember the square or the linear footage, but I want to say, I don't know, I guess nobody here would probably know either. It's over double linear footage from Silverstone currently to Pinnacle for shelf space. So we'll at least double the collection that's available.
And as you were talking about the Silverstone, sorting process or minimizing the collection, the physical assets, and the redistribution and making it easier for people to browse, I couldn't help but think that sounds like an AI kind of thing. Like you could ask AI, hey, give me the best floor plan flow for this facility or something like that, and Skynet could take over or something. But
maybe eventually, but the one thing that AI is pick up a book and see if it's torn or not. So there's room for that to come in the future, but for now, I'm happy to have the staff that have the education and experience to be able to do it properly.
Yep. And I think it was Vasil's report. I don't know the picture of the Meridian Police Department came out for story time. Was the mascot, was that a fox, or is that a library? Is that a librarian that's doing the costume, or did the police bring that?
That is a Meridian Police Department outfit. That is not ours. Ours is a dog, but not that kind of dog.
Thanks. Other questions? Nick, I have a couple. So those early learning numbers, it was on 2,100 some odd participants. Does that include the caregivers or is that children?
That is anyone who is in attendance at those events.
Very good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then the sorter reaching end of life. So I've been around long enough to remember when it came in. So what is the lifespan on a sorter that we would expect?
That I'm not 100% on. I could guess, but it would only be a guess, and I would say 10 years. But I know that we've had a hard time over the years sourcing some of the belts and mechanisms, the electronic pieces and motor pieces for that unit, and so that model, is very challenging for us to maintain because it's no longer produced, and so we've had that. I want to say 10 years, almost probably 11 years, because it would have gone in at about 2013, if my memory serves, because we built the wall. I know that for a fact, and that was after the sorter had already been in for a while. So we've had it for at least 10 years, probably closer to 11 years, and it has had a lot of use in that amount of time. A lot of use. And so we're going to make it till we remodel, but it'll be tight.
Thank you for that. I think, right, things to think about, numbers go up and so forth, and the sorter gets more use. And as we're planning, what do we need in reserves to replace equipment? Because that's some pretty significant dollars.
So
Um,
to that point, one of the things that we have done with Orchard Park when we put in the sorter up there is it's a modular unit. And so it can be reconfigured. It can be easily serviced. You don't have to take apart the entire machine necessarily to repair something. It has a lot more forgiveness in terms of if something goes wrong, how we can fix it. And that is the model that we'll be going forward with at Pinnacle. And then again, when we remodel Cherry, we'll be doing that same modular approach. And I am being told that the sorter had a 7-year max
Oh, wow.
lifespan and is, again, 10 plus years old.
Yeah,
So,
it's definitely past. I do.
and it is not cheap to replace. So
No, I recall that it was expensive.
we don't want to replace it until we remodel if at all possible.
I don't know if you guys, the sorter's called Thor, which I thought was immortal, but anyway. So to that end, the Cherry timeline. So is staff waiting for Pinnacle to be launched before, or are we working concurrently on plans for that?
That is a great question. I had conversation with MSR Design today, and we are going to formally launch the kickoff to planning. Hopefully April 30th range, somewhere in that general vicinity. And then that'll just be an online thing to kind of get everything planned. And then we'll have stakeholder meetings and on-site visits with MSR Design and some of our contractors to do an assessment of current conditions. And that will be middle to late May. And with that, it'll kick us into the next phase, which is doing focus groups and some planning on what is currently happening, what people want to see, things like that. And so working with our community partners and with our community stakeholders on what that looks like and being able to get that plan. So the general extreme summed up version is we're starting this month. We'll be going through all of the pre-planning pieces and then design pieces from May through the end of summer. And then we'll be doing actual design pieces through fall and winter. And we'll be hopefully permitting by February and March-ish. And so hopefully by April, we'll be actually doing the actual construction, but we might be able to do some other pieces leading up to that, depending on what gets called out in terms of the annex or parking lot or whatever it might be. There can be pieces that, depending on whatever the design comes out as, there is potential of some of it's being able to start sooner than others. So the specifics I don't know because they don't exist yet, but that's kind of the generalized timeline. So we'd be able to kick off spring of next year in earnest with the renovation project.
Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anything else? All right, then we will move on to item number 7 on our agenda. We have the Human Resource Coordinator job description update provided in our packet in both red line and clean version. Anything to add here?
No, just some cleanup pieces, mostly structural, but adding some general language in there that would align it with the HR manager and resource coordinator positions more appropriately. Just more changes than were consent agenda worthy. So
Excellent. Thank you. Comments or questions from the trustees on this job description Or I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Laura.
I move that we approve the job description for Human Resource Coordinator.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Destiny. Further comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item 8A, the financial policy review. The financial policy, again, provided in our packets in red line and clean versions. Nick or Emma, anything to add here?
There's some changes that will align with best practices, and then some general language cleanup so that it's consistent with our other policies. I would say that for the most part is what it is. I will say with policies, what we look at is reviewing each of policy once a year. And so we are on a schedule to review every policy each year, or every year we review each policy, and every policy is reviewed by legal counsel prior to coming to the board.
Excellent. Thank you. Questions, comments on the financial policy? Go ahead, Laura.
Madam Chair, I just want to share my, I guess it's enthusiasm to see some of the language from the general accounting practices and even in the financial audit reflected in the updated policy. So that I feel like it's a good improvement over what we have.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Go ahead, Josh.
Madam Chair, so just one thing that I thought was interesting with this fixed asset capitalization policy, and it kind of speaks to what you were talking about with disorder, the long-term CapEx that goes into some of our major assets. And as I was reading through the financial policy, it kind of, is it fair to say that it's kind of bridging the gap between this and our long-term, the building and strategic plan? I forget the full description of that.
The master facility comprehensive
That's
plan.
it. Yeah, that's it. Can you kind of talk to the relationship between these two and how they are supporting each other?
I might ask Emma to weigh in while I think about a good way to answer that.
Thank you, Director Grove. So I think they parallel each other. You know, our capitalization threshold is an accounting policy. Our replacement schedule is a separate item that we need to be fiscally diligent and plan for. But they definitely parallel each other. And that is something that has been on our minds as we proceed forward with planning Cherry Lane and having a reserve held back for taking care of those assets and being good stewards.
And I don't recall off the top of my head from last year's budget, but is that like a line item with, I know you have all the codes and all these numbers that I can't keep straight, but is CapEx for major items delineated item by item, or is it just a general category, or how is that that money saved before we spend kind of down the road to replace?
Yeah, absolutely, Trustee Cummings. So we have a couple different line items on our budget that deal with capital. So when we're talking about current year expenditures, we have capital that comes out of general fund and capital that comes out of the plant facilities fund, which is our projects fund. And then we do have another line item where we annually contribute to the capital repair and replacement fund. And that capital repair and replacement is the long-term planning part that we're talking about right now, having those funds available to be good financial stewards of the assets we do own.
But it's, just so I'm clear, that fund isn't like, let's say the HVAC at Cherry Lane decides, hey, we need the money now. It's not delineated, you know, on a per asset basis. It's just a general fund to cover CapEx, correct? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So it provides flexibility, but also the right amount of buffer for the unforeseen.
So I would add a couple of pieces to that. So public libraries in particular, but public agencies more broadly, have limited ways in which they're able to save money, and for very set and restricted purposes. So one of the things that you hear over the years is, well, if you want to do this, then just save and go build it. Well, you're not allowed to do that. there's limitations on what you can do with different funding mechanisms. And so you can't just save to do certain things. There's financial policies and mechanisms and pieces that have to be done in accordance with state law. And so one of the things that we do is we have our repair and replacement fund, and it is a general fund, but it is not part of our general fund. And so meaning it is set aside just to repair or replace our assets. And so we can't build a brand new building with those funds, but we can do renovations. We can replace an HVAC system if it goes down, but it's not line items because we don't know if the HVAC system is going to go down before the sorter goes down. And so it's there to meet the needs in real time, but also it allows us to do some of like the bigger renovation pieces that we'll be doing with Cherry Lane as well. And so we are able to save to do that, but it can't go to building new aspects of a project. So when we get into the capital financing aspects of the Cherry Lane piece, there will be a lot of complications to just how it's laid out because there are restrictions on different funds on how they can and cannot be used. So a complicated way of saying there's a big fund that we can pull from if we have to, but it's not separated out. But also we have some other limitations on how we can set those things up.
But essentially, as presented, the financial policy is in alignment with the long-term strategic plan,
Correct.
funding documents,
Yep.
and gives the flexibility required
Yes,
to support.
very much so.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And just on that reserve, I think what I'm alluded to a little bit is as we move into renovations, we don't want to pull those dollars down so far that 7 years from now, when we have to get a sorter at Orchard Park or something like that, we're not unprepared for those kinds of things. So what is the life of our different assets and how much do we need to have set aside?
And Madam Chair, to that point and to your point, Josh, that is what our master facility comprehensive plan will give us is how much projected to be to replace these major components. What is the lifespan of them? The good part of what we have right now, though, once we renovate Cherry Lane, all of our buildings will have been updated or completed within the last 5 years. And so we're going to have a better buffer than if we had, all buildings that were built in 1996, like this building, So we do have some grace period built in, but also looking at what is, when we do that facility comprehensive plan, is what is it that we need to be setting aside percentage wise every year from our budget to be able to cover this, and then parlayed with what are the anticipated costs of replacing these systems, these large items from each of our locations. So they, I guess, as Emma said, they parallel each other very well.
All right, entertain a motion to approve the updated financial policy.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Laura.
I move that we approve the updated financial policy.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Destiny. Further comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item 8B, the employee handbook. At long last, we have before us, or in our packets, I should say, the updated employee handbook with changes has undergone some extensive review. Nick, some comments?
Yes, we have I'm going to get the number right here because it's important. 71-page employee handbook. And we have been working on this for a very long time. And rather than seeing a red line version, we're giving a completely clean version because you would have a sea of red because things were realigned throughout to better fit together so that we didn't have pieces talking about topic A in the first few pages and then again like somewhere else throughout the document. So it's better aligned. We've had our team look at it. We had a staff working group with people from different locations and different levels throughout the district provide feedback to go towards it. We had our employment attorney look at it. We had ICRIMP look at it. It has been through the ringer. So happy that we have it here and I don't have to think about it again for another like 6 months.
Nick, and so you answered the question I had was whether ICRIMP had reviewed it, because of course they should we have employment related issues there or defense in that regard. Comments, questions from the trustees?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Nick, I think this was quite a bit to sort through. And my only comment is that, well, a couple of comments. One, I think there really needs to be a linkable table of contents, where it has, hey, here's the different stuff. So when an employee has a question about, hey, what can I be terminated for? I can click on and go to that section of the handbook. And that's more of a formatting kind of thing. The second thing I thought, as I read through it, was, do we need to have a definition of terms, like a dictionary in this? Because at times we're referenced as the districts, at times we're the company, and it talks about some terms, and it would be useful, I think, if right at the front you said, hey, here's the definition of terms. Company, Meridian Library District, employer are all synonymous throughout this document, or something like that along those lines. Because at the end of the day, this is supposed to help employees, right? And the part-time librarian, or young page, or junior librarian, whoever this is provided to, they're probably going to glass over their eyes after about 5 pages into it, I think, because I only made it to 6 or 7 before it kind of blended all together. For what it's worth.
So, Madam Chair, Trustee Cummings, yes. First one, easy. That one's doable. There's nothing that's just a quick update formatting thing to link. Easy to do. Doesn't take more than a few minutes. Table of, or a glossary, essentially. Great idea. Something that I think we could definitely work on and have the next time it goes through, or possibly as an addendum that would come in separately. But it will take quite a bit of time. The inconsistencies piece is something that we have strived to get under control, but with a 71-page document and several hands in the pot, we might have missed a few. But we will have that cleaned up next time for sure. So that consistency piece is a big one for me as well, in terms of using the same terminology, the same tone, the same language throughout, so that there is less confusion, because it already, just by its nature, can be confusing. So we want to do whatever we can to make it as usable and understandable for our employees as possible.
And on that note, I just actually remembered in there, like, yeah, I know you guys use the term FTE for full-time employee, or part-time employee, and that section in particular, the handbook, I thought could be benefited if it actually had a salary schedule attached into it. I don't know if that's something that would be advisable or not, but thoughts on that?
So the easy answer for that is we could, but anytime we update the salary schedule, we would then have to also review and update the entirety of the handbook, like in terms of like review and things like that. So it's advisable to not put something that is open to changes more frequently within it. And so it's doable, but not advisable.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Nick. Josh, I think if I'm understanding what you're getting at is being very transparent, being very clear with employees about that information. And the salary schedule is readily available. It is posted. that employees can access it fairly easily. So I think balancing those concerns of transparency versus maintenance of policies. And I think when you have a salary schedule in one place and also in the policy, are you updating both? Do they always match and so forth? So trying to keep that as easy to maintain as we can, I think is important. I get your point on the clarity
Suggestion
for
retracted.
employees. Yeah. But yeah. Okay. And I think, yeah, this has been a heavy lift on employees and certainly there's further refinement that can be done. But as Nick mentioned, it's going to come back around here in fairly short order. So we can do some of those additional steps at that point. Other comments? Go ahead, Laura.
Madam Chair, I did notice, I have to go back and see if I can find it. There is, you said this was Nick, Director, you said this wasn't a red line version. There is one remaining comment in here that needs to be updated before, assuming it's approved, so that is resolved and isn't posted online. I also do like the idea of an addendum with definitions. I think that would be helpful, but that can come later.
We can add that in later to the chagrin of our employment attorney. So we do have Lindsay, our HR manager here. If you do have questions that I cannot answer, she is here with us tonight and able to help as well. So just throwing that out there in case.
All right. Any additional questions, or I would entertain a motion? Go ahead, Laura.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the employee handbook.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Destiny. Further comment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item number 9 on our agenda.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
can we make note in the minutes that Trustee Kohler is here at 8:10?
Thank you. Welcome, Jeff. No problem. Thank you.
Sorry, just wanted to make sure that we put it in the minutes.
Duly noted. And that brings us to the last item on our agenda. Item number 9, future agenda items. We will, of course, have discussions around operational/policy changes needed to be in compliance with House Bill 710 that has become law or will become law on July 1. I will look forward to further discussion on the Cherry Lane renovation, and that probably comes before us a little later this year. But the financial aspects of that as well. Other items for the agenda in the future. Go ahead, Laura.
Madam Chair, between last meeting and this meeting, I did go review our code of conduct. That policy was updated January of 2024. And I can see where it could lead to some confusion. So I would like us to review that again and look at and consider possible word changes and look at other libraries around the community to see how they address that.
Thank you, Laura. We'll note that for our future agenda.
Madam Chair, we can add that. It will not be for several months, though, as we will need to spend a decent amount of time with legal and doing research on that. And our priority at the moment is going to be in making sure that our district is prepared for the impending go live date of HB 710. And so it will have to be until after that implementation date before we are able to fully address that, because we do need to put our time and energy in making sure that we are ready and able to address the changes brought forth with that bill.
Thank you, Nick. I think that's reasonable, right? But we will definitely keep it on our radar for calendar year 2024. Other items? All right. Seeing none. Josh was right. I was wrong. 8:15, and we are adjourned. Thank you.